Bet online is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports contests and events with first to market odds and lines. Now, find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. Bet Online continues to be the top online resource for all sports information from live in game betting props and futures. Head to Bet Online today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Now, use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your 50%. Welcome your bonus on your first deposit. Now, Bet Online is where the game starts.
Everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of Saturday Night Huddle. Excuse me, and we're also gonna mix it in with a little BLEAV action, so we get some BLEAV and Bills action as well. As always, we got the legends in the building, legendary coach, sports director, whatever you need, he got it. Coach Mookie Hawkins in the building. We obviously got the legendary Ruben Brown, Hall of Fame offensive lineman. And then, of course, we got legendary Steelers beat writer from PGH Steelers Now, Alan Saunders. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Saunders. Glad to see Ruben and Mookie. How you guys doing tonight?
Saturday night. It was a night before a big game.
Absolutely. We got a really, really big game. Bills versus Steelers. And since we talking Steelers, obviously we got some Steelers blood in to join us tonight. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna do a little bit of a brief recap for last week's game first. So let's just start off with the Bills versus Ravens, talk a little bit about it. Mookie, tell me about it. What was your thoughts on the game? What does it mean to get a win over a tough AFC opponent like that?
Well, it was gut check time in my eyes. I mean, everybody wanted to see were the Bills really shell shocked from, that loss in Miami. How would they respond to that? Will there be any gas left in the tank after that Miami game? So I think the Bills answered that question. And now, the confidence is, a little bit to the roof where they understand what they need to do, on a week-to-week basis. This is the more or less, I'd say, humbled and hungry approach that Coach McDermott talks about a lot. I kind of got that feel this week, just talking with the guys. So, that humbled but hungry approach. They know that Pittsburgh beat them last year. That knocked them out of home field advantage contention. So they're humbled about that. They're not going to take Pittsburgh lightly. That's for damn sure. And you're going to see, a good game once again.
What's it like for the Bills in the locker room or is it even a problem for them to have that monkey off their back of being able to win a close game?
Yeah, I think a lot of people really feed in that to too much. I guess that was the only probably like eyesore stat that wasn't in the Bills' favor. So, people take it, they run with it. But nobody's going to talk about, before that streak, they won like 6-7 straight. Nobody's talking about that. So, people is going to find the negative part of it and just run with it. And then sometimes psychologically, it do get in your head now. I ain't going to say that. It do get in your head because obviously you got those 9-6 losses versus Jacksonville. What I mean? So,
yeah. Or the Hail Murray or just stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So it was just good, jubilation in the locker room. It was just a relief that hey, they can go out there and close out games, and play to their expectations more or less.
Absolutely. And I know you follow the Steelers, Mr. Saunders, so I'm sure, for the people who you speak to on a regular basis, they were happy to see the Ravens take an L. What was your thought process on the game coming out of last week?
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting just, watching two teams. Obviously, we've been pretty familiar with. I mean, Mike Tomlin said, talking about Steelers-Bills, it honestly feels like it's like preparing for a division game. This will be the fourth straight year these two teams have played each other. And I think even for me, and obviously I'm not breaking down the film like a coach is, but even for me, I think when you see a team as often as I've seen the Bills and seen the Ravens, you really start to appreciate the little details about the way those guys play. I thought Josh Allen is such a special player. I know how good that Ravens defense is, and he's still able to make guys that are really good look really bad. And I think that's one of the things that's the hardest thing to do in the NFL. I think there are guys on every team that can be taken advantage of, and there are schemes that you can lean on to try to get you into those good matchups, and you can beat teams by beating up on their weaknesses. But it's really rare to just be like, oh, that guy, he's an all pro. I don't care. I'll beat him anyway. And I think we saw that from Josh Allen at the end of that game. And I think that's what makes him a really special player, in addition to his obvious, he's got physical talent, but I think he just has something different about him where he's not afraid of those special players. He's not afraid of those big time matchups. And I love that fourth down conversion where he Owe had him and he juked him and then he pump fake Marlon Humphrey. And like, that's two killers, man. Like those are guys that are, they get one-on-one. Either one of those guys gets one-on-one with an offensive player. They don't lose very often. And Allen made them both look stupid on an incredibly important play and goes in to win the game. I just, man, he's such a special player, and I love that about him.
Real quick before we get to Ruben, Alan, tell me about what's the conversation around Steelers camp when you look at the Ravens and they allow two pretty big comebacks in a span of 3 weeks. What does that mean? Do you guys smell blood in the water? Is it,
I think it's hard to smell blood in the water if you're the Steelers because I don't think the Steelers are a shark right now. Like they're. But I'll say this: like it gives them hope that like if they could get their stuff figured out, no one is going to run away with this division. The Ravens have problems on defense. They seem like they're never healthy. Cincinnati's offensive line that they spent so much money on doesn't seem like it's coming together. The Browns have lost a couple games that they probably should have won and got themselves into bad situations and then lost those 2 games late to the Jets and the Falcons. So I think it just gives the Steelers a little bit of hope that, hey, this is a 1-3 start. This is not where this team wants to be. They're disappointed with a lot of areas of their play, but they're one game out of the division lead because nobody else is that good either. So, I mean, I don't think they're thinking that it's setting themselves up great because they don't feel that good about the way they're playing right now. But I think it gives the Steelers hope that if they can get their game together, that the division is still in reach, that none of those teams are going to be able to run away from them the way they're playing right now.
Absolutely. Very good points. We got to hear some of Ruben's thoughts earlier. Make sure you guys go check out the ISO block with Ruben Brown up there on BLEAV as of right now. But Ruben, you want to give us your thoughts on the game, once more about just, who were some special players coming out of that game that you really saw maybe take a step forward that you weren't expecting?
Well, I expected the Bills to have a good, I would say they got great players. They got it on paper. The Bills are number one contender. So, we're just waiting each week for these guys to show up and do what we expect them to do. So, the great play by Edmonds and Poyers and the different guys, we kind of at the point where we're expecting them to do it because they're the contenders, so we need them to do it. The guy, like we said last week, that really stood up and shined overall, other than the 2 interceptions and other play, was Matt Milano.
Mm-hmm.
So guys like him playing, it shines a light on him, but it's kind of like we expect you to play that well, because this is supposed to be a Super Bowl team. So things like that are to be expected. That's what stood out for me in that particular game, other than the fact that the Bills showed a type of toughness in the face of adversity that they're going to need to go forward. Well, because their coaching didn't falter and get flustered because guys were going down and the game wasn't going the way it wanted to. They found a way to win the game, opposed to like not Jacksonville, but Baltimore.
Miami.
I think Baltimore found a way to lose the game. But that's what happens when you're playing a good team. Where I transition over here to Bills playing the Steelers. This is what the Bills need to watch out. At all intents and purposes, sorry, Alan, the Bills are going to beat the Steelers. And you know this because you report on the Steelers in that they are not a team that you walk in and take lightly just for the simple fact of who is coaching them. and some of the weapons they have. You cannot sleep on this team. And that is why that whole division over there is up for grabs, because these are scrappy teams over there. Pittsburgh is a scrappy team. Baltimore's a top tier team. It can be even more so when they're healthy. Cleveland's a scrappy team. If you want to say so or not, they scrappy. And then you got Cincinnati. So they're all formidable teams, not something that the Bills definitely can't overlook at all. And this is a season, Steelers are like the Bills in a way. They've been tested. You know, they done been through tough times, and so it's not going to be too much slamming of the helmets on each side of this bar. It's going to be some real coaching and playing that's going to happen on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the Bills found themselves in unfamiliar territory last week. Ever since the turn of the team, if you will, Josh's third season where they've kind of taken their step forward, they don't find themselves down by 2 touchdowns or more too often. They're usually the one blowing teams out. So for them to show that fortitude to come back in that second half and make the plays to come back and win that game, I think it showed a lot. It showed it shows you that your team is made of the right stuff that you want them to be made of, but we're going to go ahead and get into another AFC East team that had to come back over an AFC North team last week. The Jets defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it was said that Kenny Pickett did come in and it gave a little spark. Alan, you want to speak to that and how he performed, what you expect from him going forward?
Yeah, I thought Pickett was pretty good at moving the offense and better than Mitch Trubisky had been. But you also saw the rookie, he has a bad, just a really poor play when he throws a lateral at the feet of Jalen Warren. They lose some yardage. They kind of get behind the sticks. They were in field goal range. Now it's kind of questionable. And then he makes a really bad decision to throw back across his body, across the field, high to Pat Freiermuth. It gets tipped and intercepted. And the Jets go down and win the game. Now, there's a lot of reasons why the Steelers lose that game. It's not just Kenny Pickett, but I think it just shows that, he comes in and he's obviously gets the fans are behind him and they're excited and the offense is feeling good. And then, there's going to be good and bad when you're playing a rookie. I mean, the Buffalo fans should know that more than just about anybody. You saw what Josh Allen has become compared to what he was. It's dramatic, right? And so I think that there are going to be some of those growing pains. There are going to be some moments where he looks like the player that they hope he can be in the future. And there might be some moments where he cost them a little bit. And I think they have to kind of accept that. They've gone to him. They're going to give him a chance and to prove himself. But you're definitely going to see some ups and downs. The thing that's kind of cool about Kenny and just about his personality is he's super tough, super competitive, and just a hyper focused young man that's really into his craft. And I think that gives you hope that he can be that guy eventually. But even though he's an older player and even though he's pro ready, I think that's a misnomer. There's no ready for the NFL. You have to learn when you get there. And I do think, obviously he's not the same kind of guy physically that Josh Allen is, and he's not going to have to probably do the same kind of changes to his mechanics and things that Josh Allen had to do. But I think there's going to be that kind of learning curve for him at this level, especially when you have guys that are want to use their legs and want to be physical at the quarterback position. Like, you have to learn that, you run past the defensive end in college, he stays back there. You run past an NFL defensive end, it takes him 3 strides to catch you and then break your leg. So it's that is going to take some time, and there's going to be some growing pains in there. But he's the big topic about the team this week. They lost that game to the Jets. Nobody's really happy about it, but I think almost everybody is still very excited to see what Kenny Pickett can do given an opportunity. And I think I like the attitude that has kind of brought to the team a little bit better. They went into that Cincinnati game. They really had a chip on their shoulder. They're big underdogs. They didn't think anybody was giving them a chance. And they won that game, and they lost TJ Watt. And I think that kind of took the wind out of their sails in a lot of ways. Yeah. You didn't see that belief that those guys went out there in those next 2-3 games and really thought they were going to do it. I think Pickett brings back a little bit more of that belief where they're like, okay, here's a guy that we can get behind and maybe he can lead us to something.
All right, real quick. You mentioned things like hyper focused and competitive and mature. These are, these are things you hear about, quarterbacks that could potentially be great one day. So, under your estimation, do you think that Kenny Pickett has what it takes to be the franchise quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I think he has everything that you would want. But that is the hardest thing I think in football to find out is there are lots of guys that look like they have everything that just for whatever reason don't ever put it all together. We've seen so many guys get drafted very highly with very similar skill sets and abilities. I mean, I think about some guys that were way at the top of the draft, right? Like Sam Bradford, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between those guys? I mean, like physically, they're all basically the same, right? They're all taken high. They all got lots of opportunities. One guy basically washed out of the league. One guy's had a mediocre career, and one guy won a Super Bowl. I don't know. Like, it's not. You can only scout so far, and then the guy has to take it from there. And I think part of it is just the personality of him. I like Kenny's personality. I think he'll do all the work he can do to be great. I don't think he has the absolute strongest arm in the world compared to other NFL quarterbacks. I think that'll be something he'll always have to work around. But I mean, look, Tom Brady doesn't have the absolute strongest arm compared to NFL quarterbacks either. Like it can be worked around. It's just a question of whether he can do everything else and whether the team around him can put him in positions to be successful. I think the Steelers' offensive line needs to be able to protect him and really let him do his thing. If he's running around a lot, we're going to see a lot more of those rookie mistakes than if he is in the pocket with time to process and do his thing. So it's a lot of that, but I think he obviously has the potential to be great. Whether he is able to be that, I don't think anybody knows yet.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. Rue, let me ask you, when you look at the Jets this year, obviously this isn't the same inept team, that they had last year or in years past, right? With the comeback against Pittsburgh, I don't think it would necessarily say it was Kenny Pickett's fault that they lost. I think, that could have potentially happened whether it was Pickett or Trubisky in the game. Do you think that the Jets are being better, or do you think that the Steelers are like regressing in the sense that that's why the Jets were able to get that W?
I know that the Jets are better. They're definitely better than what they were in the past. And I think the season will tell you how good the Steelers are also. So I don't think you had one superior team playing another an inferior team with the Jets and the Steelers, and then the inferior team somehow surprised them. No, I think it's actually the talent and the skill that was out there is a lot more evenly matched than people were saying on paper. So that being said, I think they brought Kenny out there in a really tough position to start getting things going, to spark some energy. And I think what you saw is some of the mistakes you saw from him, turnovers and things, that was part of that excitement of him being a part of the spark. Throwing across your body, he can't make that. I'm a Pitt Panther. I know he's don't have that great of an arm. You know what I mean? A lot of throws he made back in the day, we used to pray. Is it good? Yeah, it got there. Okay. So I think he has all the qualities to make the Steelers a stronger team as the season goes on down the road. But the tail of the tape is going to be how he's going to handle everything week in and week out coming forward, because they're going to start compiling a tape on his tendencies and start attacking that and such. But to go back with the whole thing with the Jets are better than you think they are.
Yeah,
I'm in there, man. I agree. I think the Jets are like people in Pittsburgh were like, man, how'd they lose to the Jets? I was like, man, Steelers played that game without their best player, and I think the talent was pretty even.
Yeah.
I do think the Jets are a lot better than people give them credit for. Mook, when you look at the Steelers, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they have one of the greatest coaches of all time. That, you know, the history is entrenched. You know, it is what it is. You know, the identity of the team, you know what it is. It's smash mouth, hard, you know, football. Like we said earlier when me and Ruben were talking, they've led the league in sacks the last 5 seasons. Obviously without TJ Watt. What is a section of the team, or, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? A group, you know, that the Steelers have that they could build on, you know, to help them kind of get their to
get their mojo going,
back
huh?
up.
And you get their
Yeah,
mojo
exactly.
going, because I can't figure out for the life of me what in the hell happened to the Steelers offense. It just fell off in the Bermuda Triangle. I mean, okay, you don't got Juju Smith-Schuster anymore, but you still have Deontay Johnson, still got Chase Claypool, and you got George Pickens. I don't understand what the problem is. You got Pat Frymouth out there playing on the edge. You got Najee Harris. You know, come on. I don't understand what's going on with why they're not able to score points. I do understand the game is one up front, but, you know, they're not going to ever have a below average line. That's one thing I can tell you about the Steelers. They're not going to have a below average line because that's not their demeanor. That's not how they play football. So I don't know. Maybe it's the new OC, but hey, he has Pickett out there, and you know what hell of a way to make your road debut as a rookie quarterback going up against the predicted, you know, Super Bowl favorite, you know what I mean, with this defense, Von Miller and those guys on the road. So he's definitely going to have a tough outing because, I mean, not only that, you playing against I'll take that back. Jordan Poyer is not playing, but he will have a familiar guy back there playing safety, a guy that knows him very well, and DeMar Hamlin. And, you know, also Dane Jackson. Those guys are Pitt Panthers, and they all 3 of those guys were captains, you know, leading those guys, you know what I mean, to top 25 starting, getting the program back, you know, where it started. But it's going to be pretty interesting to see that matchup. What do you think about that, Al?
I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about for this game, and glad to see Dane back out there after that really scary injury earlier this year. But yeah, those guys are awesome, and I think DeMar is the kind of the perfect kind of player to take advantage of some of that. He's a really smart guy at that safety position, and I definitely think he's the kind of player that can pick at somebody's tendencies a little bit, like Ruben was saying. He doesn't have to wait for the league to get the tape on Kenny Pickett. He knows what they are. He watched them in practice for 4 years together. So I think maybe we'll get a preview of what the rest of the league is going to try to do to Kenny Pickett based on what DeMar and Dane come up with this week, because those guys probably know him better than any DB in the NFL. So I definitely think that could be an advantage for the Bills. Obviously, you know, you wish you were going out there with White and Hyde and Poyer and you know the team that was, you know, expected to go to the Super Bowl. But I like the Bills' depth there, and I think I thought Elam looked really good too. I mean, I don't think that there's been this. I mean, considering the quality of player that's missing from that secondary, I don't think there's been this horrendous drop off. Like those guys have stepped up in a big way.
Yeah, Leslie Frazier did an awesome job with that secondary. Just like last year, you wouldn't think that Tre'Davious White was out, you know, that long. The way the Bills was, you know, just not missing a beat out there. So, you know, that's a contributor to, you know, Coach Frazier, you know, also McDermott. But, you know, they do a good job on that defensive end, developing the guys and, you know, getting everything out of those guys. So when you look at it, Bills is nothing but continuity and familiarity. These guys have been in the Bills system for, you know, 6 years, everybody. You know, so that's unheard of, right, Rube? Like, just imagine if y'all would have had y'all core guys here for at least 6-7 years straight, you know? But the Bills recognize that, and now they're a top contending team because of that.
Yeah, they got good coaching.
Well, take a look at Kenny Pickett, obviously a rookie quarterback. He's going to be making his first start ever in Buffalo. Alan, can you speak to that real quick? Just, you know, what is it what's the message coming from your community about, like, would you guys have rather seen Trubisky play his former team, or are y'all comfortable with the rookie getting a start versus the number one defense?
I think there were some questions about the timing of going to Kenny, especially going to him at halftime. I think most people. I think look, I don't think there's the turnovers that he has in that first game. If you give him a whole week of practice reps, being the starting quarterback, I mean, I just think you put him in a better position to succeed. And they played the Browns on Thursday night in week 3. They had 10 days from between the Browns and the Jets. They had a bonus day Monday. There was 2 extra film days. Like, if they were going to go to him, I think that probably would have been the better time. And then he would have 1 game under his belt already as a starter before he goes into this stretch. And it's not just Buffalo. They have their next 4 games are Buffalo, Tampa, Miami on the road, Philly on the road. Like, this is the hardest stretch of their season right here. And you're going to have a rookie quarterback going in to his first road environment. I mean, in my experience, top 2 or 3 place to play in the NFL as far as the crowd being into it, the weather, the whole combination of tough place to play. Buffalo's it, and so. All that being said, I don't think most of that stuff will actually bother Kenny. The prep time will be the big thing, but like mindset wise, he's not going to be bothered by the crowd. He's not going to be bothered by any of that stuff. He's a rookie, but he's totally got like ice in his veins about that stuff. His first college game, they played number 2 Miami, and he beat them. And he's been in plenty of big stadiums in his time as a college player. So I'm not worried about that aspect of it, but I do think there's a lot going on with the Steelers offense that playing in Buffalo is good. They had 6 offensive penalties in the first half last week against the Jets. And, that is a place where you're going to have offensive penalties in Buffalo. So like, they've got to get that cleaned up and so there's a lot of other stuff going on. I'm not worried about Kenny Pickett, like the rookie quarterback melting from the scene, but the Steelers offense is not in a good place right now. And this is a tough place to get right. Like that's a big ask.
Yeah. Although, I mean, the inexperience, and we've seen it be a positive for some people sometimes in terms of you don't know what you don't know. You go out there with that inexperience. You don't know this is Buffalo, which is tough to play in. You don't know this is the number 1 defense. Like, so maybe, going in there with a little bit of ignorance can work out for them a little bit. But Rube, when you take a look at the Steelers and their weapons, they are loaded. I mean, Mookie mentioned them earlier: Freiermuth, Pickens, Johnson, Claypool, Najee Harris. Like, they have a ton of weapons. Versus a beat-up secondary, you don't have your 2 all-pro safeties, you don't have your all-pro cornerback, you don't have your rookie phenom and Christian Benford. Do you think there's any room for error there with those weapons over there?
Totally, there's a lot of room for error, and to think that here's the problem over in Pittsburgh now. The players themselves, they can go out and beat the Bills on Sunday. The players couldn't beat the Bills. The Bills are tripping and go out there with not the right mindset. The Steelers, as players, can go and win that game. Injuries are piled up on both sides, but it seems like it's more on the Bills side. The coaching really is the key to victory. And right now, the offense for the Steelers is the hang-up, guys. That's the X factor in the room that's going to decide the game. If the offensive system coordinators, coaches can figure out a way, and we all know what needs to be done, get the ball out of Kenny's hands really fast. And if they don't do that, Kenny's going to have a hard time. Now, we know Kenny, he's a regular quarterback. Watch him at Pitt. He can throw it to these talented receivers, and they could do damage. You know what I mean? And they could do damage against very good defenses, which we have a good defense. Mm-hmm. So this game definitely for me, I think we spoke about it earlier, Justice. It's like people use the word trap game. You know, this is a trap game for the Bills, because if they don't come out with a chip on their shoulder and take the Steelers as a serious team, the Steelers are loaded end to end with playmakers. Only problem they had is the question around offensive line. All right, there's some issues there. All right, that's all. Everybody's listen. I'm old lineman. Every year, everybody complain about the old line. All right, every team, the line is never good enough unless you win a Super Bowl. All right, so put that aside and let's talk about the execution, the plays, and all of that stuff. It just hasn't been happening for the Steelers. And that's really the only advantage the Bills have. If they Steelers don't find that consistency that helps them move the chains and get down the field and threaten for scores, they don't always have to score a touchdown, but threaten to score, because the defense they have over there is enough to scare you if the offense is holding on to the ball and moving it, getting in field goal range and stuff like that. The quarterback definitely can do that if he's getting the ball out of his hands really quick. And I'm saying all of this window dressing for everyone to culminate this with, it's about the coaching. This offensive coordinator for the Steelers going to be on Sunday to be able to help his young quarterback be able to get the ball into his top players' hands. That's really the game plan.
So that means you're gonna see a lot of Najee Harris tomorrow.
I say Pickett. I think I think after watching the game, I think Pickett and Pickett like each other. It might be a man crush there.
Yeah,
so,
and that's a matchup we're gonna talk about.
And that's a matchup right there. They get and listen, we all know this. You could be Tom Brady and you can be Al Brady. If you get a good, reliable guy that you can look around and turn and just throw it to him and trust him, now you got you dangerous. You know, you got a whole nother thing happening.
Yeah, but we got a rookie too over there, Rube. That's on an island over there, and teams are not throwing at that guy. And he played against George Pickett, at Georgia, and I don't think he caught a pass then. So, we're gonna see. That's gonna be a very intriguing matchup tomorrow.
Now, see, I like to play devil's advocate. Now, you don't think he done had that in his mind and been waiting to get to the NFL to show the world. Hey, that was then.
That zero catch game was a fluke. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you.
A real dog is gonna say, "All right, I challenge. Let's go try this again." So I throw a little.
Speaking of, somebody getting the best of you one year and you looking forward an opportunity to pay him back. I mean, they got us in the season opener last year. Melvin Ingram absolutely went crazy. TJ Watt went crazy. Now, of course, they don't have either of those guys for this game. And Melvin Ingram obviously isn't on the team anymore, but they still have the league's leading sacker and Alex Highsmith. Still have Cam Hayward. They still have the requisite pieces to create some pressure for them. Is that where you at all, Mook? You know what I'm saying? With the offensive line, do you how much of a challenge are they in for?
As far as who? The Steelers O-line?
Buffalo Bills offensive line.
Bills O-line.
TJ Watt had knee surgery today. He had, he was out for a peck, but he's having knee surgery.
Allen is Cam healthy?
I mean, Cam's beat up, but he's gonna play, but he is not 100%.
Okay.
But Cam is Cam, and
he's the
our Bills offensive line in that area are who?
Well, I'm gonna tell you what. This is again, and we know
Bates
Cam Hayward is a dog, alpha dog. I mean, at 80% Cam is 100% on anybody else's team.
The son of Ironhead. Come on, man.
And I tell you what, guys, Alex Highsmith looks like a different player this year too, man. He's really come on. He looks really good. I think the big thing for the Steelers is that they can get pressure. Can they bring down Josh Allen? They let Zach Wilson get away last week. I think they had 10 pressures and 1 sack in that game. Like if they do that again, they're going to lose. But if they can bring them down when they get to them, they can get pressure for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
this was what Mitch Morris had to step up. I went on the limb and say Mitch Morris is going to have a Pro Bowl season this year. So, again, hey, it's money time, Mitch Morris. You got Cam Hayward.
But
We're going to see what that matchup's about.
I'm gonna throw this back at you. This is going with my theme. The player's going to win this game one way or another. You know, the ball's going to either get turned over, a penalty, or something like that. But this is going to be on these coaches this Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Allen, y'all know, on his worst day, Cam is better than our starting center. All right? We know that, right? Cam is better than us. So I'm sorry, Buffalo. Let's just call it how it is. The dude across from him is practically going to be a legend.
Well, yeah, dudes are Cam Hayward to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, Pro Bowl
coaching comes into play now. Like, hey, all right, we have a sizable disadvantage in this area, and it's important that we protect this so Josh can throw the ball, step up, go through progression, do all this thing without some big 300-pound guy in his lap or pushing around, throwing a hand up in the sight of his vision. What are we going to do to keep that from happening? Because just that one aspect in coaching gets overlooked, and then you get in the game, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, we didn't expect all this pressure up the middle. We were waiting for it to come off the edge. No, you got a monster in the middle. Don't listen. I played my very first game I played in pro football. I played Michael Dean Perry. It was later in his career. All right, y'all know that name. All right, that was my very first game, and I was playing in Denver. My offensive coach, Tom Bresnahan, says to me, he's like, he's an old guy. Don't worry about it. Baby, you got him. You got him. Kent Hall, who was all-world center for Jim Kelly forever, the K-Gun center, turned around and looked at me, and he said, don't you believe that? He's still alive, ain't he? You know what I mean? Like, he old, but he's still alive, and then he gonna come out and play this game. So don't you go in there thinking, oh yeah, Cam ain't what he used to be. Cam's who he always has been, and he's definitely. I guarantee the Steelers are counting on that to be in their favor.
Mm-hmm. And I think
coaching wise, they better get on the game plan.
And I think that's really important because, like, if the Steelers played the Patriots aren't, they're not a big running team, right? But they ran the ball really effectively against the Steelers to keep the Steelers away from Mac Jones. And I think that's a big, like, the Bills don't run the ball that much. I think they're going to have to, just to keep the Steelers from teeing off on Josh Allen. The Steelers' run defense is not that good. I think they're 5th in yards per game against on the run, 5th worst. I mean, and so I think I agree. I think it's, if they can do what New England did and sort of change up their style to attack where the Steelers' weaknesses are, I think it can work. If they try to throw the ball 35 times, Steelers are going to get to Josh Allen, some of them, and then if they get a couple turnovers, that's how they win the game. That's how, like, they're thinking, okay, how do we win? All right, this is how it's got to go down. So I think I agree. I think it's the coaching, and if they can change their scheme up a little bit to attack the Steelers' weakness, they can keep that from happening.
And Mook, tell me, well, what's a matchup you looking forward to for tomorrow?
We just named a few of them, and I like Pickens versus Elam. I mean, because it's really going to boil down to that matchup. And, like Al was saying, Ruben was saying as well, that, Kenny Pickett had some sort of rapport with Pickens because training camp, they was the ones getting the most reps as the twos, per se. So, he established that. And then that's what they draft him to be. Y'all guys are the future, so get used to each other, how they get a feel for one another. And, he's going to him out there. So when that happens one-on-one, and that's going to happen one-on-one tomorrow, I want to see who's going to win that battle. Will it be Pickens or will it be, Kyer Elam? He's definitely going to get, we definitely want to see what Kaiir Elam is all about tomorrow. The jig is
Alan,
up.
Alan, when you look at it, from a Steelers perspective, what's a matchup that you believe you guys can exploit to maybe come out, with a W tomorrow?
A matchup to exploit. I think one of the things the Steelers need to do is they need to be able to block Von Miller without help. Pat Freiermuth is not a particularly good blocking tight end, and he's one of their best playmakers. They need him, and I think he has an advantage over most of the guys that Buffalo could have covering him. I don't know if Tremaine Edmonds is going to play, but like all those guys, I think Freiermuth can beat all the slot guys, all the linebackers. I think he can beat those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't beat them if he's attached to the right tackle's hip, holding on to Von Miller for dear life. Like that doesn't work. So I think that's a place they have to win, because if they keep him in, he's not even that good of a blocker anyway. But if they keep him in a lot, I think it really reduces, it really cuts what they can do down on an offense. There was a play, Kenny Pickett threw an interception. It was kind of a jump ball and a little bit underthrown, looking at Chase Claypool. But one of the things that when you're looking at the film that really stood out to that play is there's only 3 receivers in routes, and it's cover 2. So one of them's double covered. So there was really only 2 places that he could feasibly throw the ball because they felt like they needed to protect to help the offensive line. If they're going to do that all game, I think it's going to be tough to take advantage of a beat-up Bills secondary. I think they need to find a way. Chuks Okorafor has played against Miller. I think this is his 3rd time. He's done pretty well against him. He's a pretty good pass protector. He's not a great run blocker. But I think they're going to test him and leave him out there alone as much as they can and see if they can let Freiermuth and Najee get out of the backfield and go make some plays out in the middle of that Buffalo defense and in the slot area where I think they're a little bit vulnerable. But that's a big ask. Von Miller's obviously a really special talent. And like Ruben said, he's not young, but he's still living, right? Like
he's still alive.
That dude is something different. So that'll be a tough test, but I think that's a really important matchup for the Steelers to win.
Rube, what about you? What do you think? Oh, you got.
I think the same thing. I looked at it as, if the Steelers are going to be effective, they're going to have to get as many guys out into their routes as possible so Kenny can find people to hit easily, opposed to, like you just said, looking into the defensive coverage and like your guys are all double. You need, they're going to have to be some one-on-one wins up front on the offensive line, or, schemes that allow the receivers to get out into their routes and to also give the quarterback a chance. I really think that it's really about getting the ball out of the quarterback's hand really quick. And that in that case, you don't really necessarily need your tight end to be blocking against anyone. And trust me, I raised my hand. It's a lot of really good tight ends that have played the game. Ben Coates is probably one of the greatest blocking and receiving tight ends. After that, the rest of them are either one or the other. All right? There's the very, very, I named one guy. Y'all throw another name in there that matches that down the road, but you're going to be back in the 80s.
I'll put Heath Miller out there as a guy who did a pretty well both plays, but there are very few of them. You
see what I'm saying? So a mistake a lot of times offensive coordinators will make.
You muted, Mook.
Mookie, a mistake offensive coordinators make sometimes is they do think, we could, if only the tight end could block it for a second, then we'd be okay. Can't happen. Never. The dudes that play at ends against the tight end. Tight end need to run and get out there, turn around and catch the ball. So I see really that the case, getting the ball over to the Steelers skilled players if they can accomplish that. And then if you look over on the defensive side, and I'm talking about, I've already predicted that the Bills are going to win, but I'm talking about it on the Steelers side for them, if they look to win. Over on the defensive side, we've already said it's going to have to come up front, attacking and getting some people up in Josh's face and causing him to move around and making it difficult, for him to find his weapons. But other than that, it's going to be a tall order.
I'll throw one more out there. The Steelers won this game last year because they got a special teams touchdown on a punt block. They're going to a different punt returner this week. Steven Sims is going to replace Gunnar Olszewski. I thought he looked awesome in the preseason as a punt returner. So maybe they got a trick up their sleeve with him again. See if they can get a big play on special teams. That goes along. You're trying to win as a 14-point underdog. You probably got to get one of those.
Yeah. Isn't that funny how we do all this talking about sports and then every so often we forget about the special teams when if we really want to break this down, the special teams sometimes come out to be the biggest reason why any of these damn teams win or lose, one way or another. It's either a horrible play that happened on special teams that flips the field and calls a turnover and cause situations that you can't get out of, or something really good happens for you on special teams, which gives you the advantage and helps either your offense or your defense. And we forget that aspect of it a lot.
Yeah, so it's just like one guy that I would say that can do that room as far as a tight end, Robert Gronkowski. I throw him in that sauce. He can block in.
He ain't no Ben coach. He ain't no Ben. I'm hardcore. I'll tell Rob to his face. He ain't no Ben coach.
Close, just close. The next guy that's close.
He a good Shannon Sharp. He's a good Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp is a good receiver.
But yeah, I kind of figured Steelers' game plan will probably be quick game, use your running back, do some stand-up, some bubble screens with Deontay Johnson, take your shots on the boundary with George Pickens, isolated one-on-one against Kyer Elam. Probably want to find Claypool down the seam somewhere to keep DeMar Hamlin occupied, and then, you can run the layouts for Fryer move. So they got those type of weapons. We don't know how Matt Canada is going to dial this thing up, So they have the weapons to keep a high-powered offense off the field. We're just going to see, who's going to win their battles, come tomorrow. But, Al, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Steelers secondary. They're a little bit banged up over there. And how's my guy Levi Wallace been doing over there?
Well, they're pretty beat up. So Ahkello Witherspoon's not going to play. Terrell Edmonds is not going to play. Minkah Fitzpatrick has a knee injury. He is going to play, but he's not going to be 100%. Cam Sutton is questionable with a ham, groin. I don't know. They're all connected, something like that. And Levi had a foot injury and was limited this week. So they're all five of them are beat up. I think what really happened, Levi had a tough game against the Jets. I think what really happened to the secondary is that this was a unit. They brought Brian Flores in. And one of the things they wanted to do was be more multiple and to use different coverages and different packages and different coverages out of different packages and really give themselves options. They feel like Cam Sutton can play slot corner, can play outside corner, can play free safety. They think Minkah Fitzpatrick can play free safety, can play slot corner. They think Art Billette can do both of that. Trey Norwood can do both of that. So they can come out and have their package not dictate their alignment and their coverage, and they can line up one way and then play it a different way and confuse people. And then people started getting injured, right? They had DeMonte Kazee, he's out. They had played without Witherspoon. They played the second half against the Jets without Edmonds. And all of a sudden, that whole second half against the Jets, they played the same five guys in the secondary every single snap. Yeah. And so this plan that came into the season where they were going to do all this different stuff and confuse people and try to keep people off guard, instead they got real boring and real basic real quick. And I think they have to find a way to get back to some of that using the personnel they have available to them. But like Trey Norwood is going to play strong safety, probably. It was the first time he ever played there in his life last Sunday. He's a real small guy for a strong safety. Probably wouldn't even try it if Knox was going to play, but I guess they feel like they're not going to get beat up too bad by the tight end without him in there. So that's going to be real interesting. Levi's going to have some tough assignments, man. He's going to be tested this week because they need him to be really good. But they're beat up for sure. And the one thing they have is that Minka is even when he's not doing anything, he gives every other defensive back 1/10 of a second because the quarterback, before he throws every ball, has to be like, all right, where's 39? Okay, there, cool. So like every other DB gets like this much more time just when he's on the field because he's that dangerous of a guy back there. But yeah, they're beat up, man. They're leaning on Levi really hard, probably too hard right now, based on the injuries they have other places. And he's going to get, I assume he's going to get digged a lot. I would assume.
What does that look like?
I mean, you guys would probably know better than I would, but like in the Steelers are traditionally like a big cover 3 team. I feel like what that would look like is a lot of 10-yard passes and it's catch and tackle, and just try not to get beat deep. I would assume that's what it would look like in that circumstance. I don't know what I mean. I think they have a lot up there. Brian Flores is a very creative coach. He's got a lot of ideas, and their defensive playbook is maybe as thick as I've ever seen it as far as like what they've got in already. So I'm curious to see what they come up with the limited personnel they're going to have. I think we might see them come out and do some different stuff we haven't seen before because what they ended the game with against the Jets definitely wasn't working.
When you look at the Bills' offense the last couple of weeks, Mook, the wide receivers ain't really been putting up too many, crazy numbers, right? Last week, Devin Singletary was our second leading receiver. The week before that, it's really been the Josh Allen show and the Stephon Diggs show. There hasn't really been that other wide receiver to step up so far yet. Obviously, Gabriel Davis has been dealing with injuries and so forth and so forth. But who is somebody who you're looking forward to seeing them step up tomorrow and maybe, become the second leading receiver as opposed to a running back doing it?
Well, I think Gabe Davis has really played, back into, I want to say full strength. I could say he's looking about good 90% out there. He's starting to plant and cut a little bit more better off that ankle. So, hopefully you'll see a better game out of him. Basically he is that deep threat for Josh when teams want to double Stephon, but Dorsey's been doing a good job of moving Diggs around. So you might see him playing slot matched up against Levi Wallace one-on-one. And we pretty much know what that matchup is going to be like if that was ever to be the matchup. But I'm quite sure they're going to try to move guys around to create those mismatches and take advantage of, Pittsburgh Steelers secondary, rid of with all those injuries. So Khalil Shakur, Khalil is still the 5th round pick from out of Boise State. I look for him to, have a solid performance. Isaiah Hodgkins, he was elevated off the practice squad. So I think that he's going to have, a solid game too. And finally, we're going to have a bigger target out there for Josh. I mean, I know Kumaro is, 6'3", 6'4", but, Hodge has been, here since, he came in with Gabe Davis. So another guy, a continuity, familiarity guy. And maybe we can get some going with him in the red zone. Or Dawson Knox is going to have a breakout game. So we'll just have to see how Coach Dorsey's really going to dial this up. But what's going to be intriguing is how the Bills are going to find a way to run the football. A lot of outside zones. Just give Devin Singletary some sweeps, let him create an open space. Don't want to run into guys like Hayward, make them chase you, tire them out. So it's going to be pretty interesting around. I'm excited.
So real quick before we move on, because I got a question for Rube. Dawson Knox is actually not going to be playing.
All right.
So
right. Yeah.
So does that mean you are expecting big things from Quentin Morris?
Right. Yeah. It'd be Quentin Morris, or like I said, you don't know what we can get empty with Hodgins and James Cook out there. You don't know how this Bills team is going to attack you. I have not yet seen 12 personnel, and I saw that a lot in training camp. Maybe, that was just because of O.J. Howard's being around, but I have not seen that yet. Maybe he's keeping that stashed away. it's going to be real intriguing to see how Coach Dorsey dialed this thing up this week.
Yeah. All right, Rube, you look at this game. They took the L versus Miami. Miami had a formula, right? It was short passes. They were sending blitzes, mixing up the pressures to get to Josh a little bit. Obviously, statistically, the Buffalo Bills still dominated that game in Miami, but they didn't score enough points to win the game. The Ravens came in this defense was pretty strong, and they manhandled us for the first half at least. Is there anything you think this Bills team is susceptible to being taken advantage of from the Pittsburgh Steelers side of things?
I would say their own, either arrogance or confidence that all they got to do is just put Josh on the field and Josh will figure out a way to win the game. He definitely they got a good scheme as far as passing the ball to several receivers out there. He got lots of options. Stephon, as great as he is, Josh can pass the ball around to other guys to move the offense. And that's where you've seen success, is them passing the ball to this guy, that guy. Next thing you know, they're in the end zone and 10 guys touch the damn ball by the time they got to the end zone. So that's not a problem. Like, the problem with the Bills all along is they haven't decided to use their run game to attack anyone. It's all been Josh Allen. It's not a team. It's Josh Allen's show. And I really believe that they're going to have to start establishing the team. Team meaning somehow turn around, hand the ball off to someone, pitch the ball over to someone really quick, get it out of Josh's hand, and they make that play, make that 1 yard run or 2 yard run they need, or get that first down. Instead of us, every time we paid them for it, but we know history will tell you you're not going to win the Super Bowl that way. You're going to need some other help. And so now is of the time to establish that, while we are in some ways having some growing pains with the offensive line. And we know the teams are now, the formula is to try to get as much pressure to Josh as quick as possible and get around him so you can disrupt it or possibly even cause turnovers, because we have had turnovers. We had quite a few, and those could come back and bite us in the butt if we don't have an established running game. And Alan, I think you led to that. You said something to that factor. If we're not running the ball and we're just going to pass her again, listen, Buffalo, Houston Oilers lost to the Bills in the greatest comeback game because they did not think they needed to run the ball. And that season was the best passing team in the NFL. And they came to Buffalo and lost the game. All right. What's the Greek saying? It's the something you're bound to repeat, or it might happen to you. Look at history. It might happen to you. Establish a run game and you problem solve.
If you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
There you go.
Alan, I got a question for you. This may be my personal bias, but I just simply don't believe in Cincinnati. I'm going to be honest with you. I think last year was a little bit of a fluke. I looked at the postseason run, and it seemed to be their defense was carrying everything, and what the defense didn't carry, Jamar Chase did the rest, right? How good can the Steelers be in terms of AFC North, right? What's their ceiling? And also, give me their floor as well.
I think I have a hard time seeing them winning more than 9 or 10 games. Like, that's pretty much their ceiling. They have really good players in certain spots, but they're not very well connected. They don't, like, you have a really good running back in Najee Harris, but then you don't have linemen that are really good run blockers. Like, the better linemen are better pass blockers than they are run blockers. So they're not, like, and they have, like, obviously Minkah Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt and Cam Hayward are incredible defensive players, but there are, like, obvious weaknesses in the defense that can still be exploited, and not, they're not difficult ways to exploit them either. I just think the Steelers are probably a year or two away from building themselves back into being, a top contending kind of team. They just don't have. They have really good players. They just don't have enough talent. There's honestly, Ruben, this reminds me of some of those pit teams in like the 2000s, where it's like, man, how'd they lose games when they had Larry Fitzgerald and Shady Davis? And that's because like you had some really good players, and then you have some like really not good players in between. And football is the ultimate team game. If you have weaknesses, teams will find them and exploit them, and they'll minimize the impact of your great players. And I think that's mostly what the Steelers are going through right now. And they also need to figure out, if Kenny's going to be the guy quarterback, and if not, who is. That's obviously the biggest question for any team that's in that kind of position. As far as the floor, I just have a hard time believing that a Mike Tomlin coach team with as many good players as the Steelers have could ever be just truly bad. Like, they're not – I can't count them out of any game on the schedule. They'll show up every week. They'll beat some teams that nobody thinks they have any business beating, whether it's this week or one of these next 4 games. Like, they're going to win one of them. Yeah. I just know it. Like, they will. That's who they are. And they're not like – I remember that game against a couple of years ago. It was late in the year, and the Eagles looked like they were doing everything they could not to win that game. You can guarantee that is not what the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do. They could be mathematically eliminated. They'll be out there bleeding and all over people trying to win one more game just because that's who they are. And so I don't think they have that low of a floor. They don't have that high of a ceiling, but I don't think they have that low of a floor either.
So with that being said, do you think Mike Tomlin will have his streak is a streak in jeopardy of having 500, going over 500 this year?
I think it's in some jeopardy. So before this season, I predicted that they would go 9-8, but I had them starting 2-2, and they're 1-3 right now. So they're behind where I had them on that pace. I did think they would lose all 4 of these games, so they got to beat a team that they shouldn't, I think, and maybe 1 or 2 going forward. But their schedule does get a lot easier down the stretch. And they have a lot of those big division games. Like, they've already been to Cincinnati and they've already been to Cleveland. So they got the home side of the division coming. But it's in jeopardy. That's for sure. It is definitely in jeopardy.
I'll help you out, Alan, on this. I predict the Steelers will win one of these next games coming up.
Yeah,
just will happen to be next week.
All right, real quick. Can you give us, some of the energy? Like, I mean, obviously the tough loss, right? And then the comeback win, exhilarating, tie energy, whatever. What's the energy like in the locker room, for this upcoming game versus the Steelers? Is there like a revenge factor, or is it like, we're better than those guys?
Like I said before, it's the humble but hungry approach. They are aware of what happened last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers coming in here and stealing one, week 1 with that special teams play. Josh talked about it. I mean, they locked in. Like, you don't even have to ask them the questions. They're like really answering the question. Like, I asked Josh what was his experience like as that first game, how it would correlate, Kenny Pickett's. He's like, man, I was just trying to figure out my left from my right, understanding what I need to do to defenses and what defenses is trying to do to me. You know what I mean? And, now you take those tools, and here it is. He's just this elite guy, 5 years later. But it's just a tough deal with Kenny Pickett having to face this type of team in his debut, especially when you got a guy like Mitch Trubisky who's familiar with this area and this team. Breathing down your neck. You may see Mitch Trubisky tomorrow if this thing gets out of hand. I'm quite sure you will see Mitch out there. But, it's a humble but hungry approach. They're not sleeping on no opponent out there. They understand those guys like Mika Fitzpatrick and, Cam Hayward. They definitely respect those guys. But they know deep down if they play their type of football, they know they'll win this, but it's never easy playing Pittsburgh. Ain't no easy win with Pittsburgh, no matter what team it is. Like Ruben said, as long as they got that coach over there, you're gonna have to do some coaching to beat Mike Tomlin. I don't care who you have on your team.
100%. Absolutely. Me and Ruben, we were talking earlier, and I guess we come away with, like, I haven't been able to watch Steelers film. I've been sick as a dog this last week, but Alan, can you speak to a little bit just how good is Alex Highsmith? Because we don't know a ton about him, but I mean, he leads the league in sacks. He had a hell of a game versus the Bengals, and he seems to be putting in work this season.
So I think Alex Highsmith has a really, really, really underappreciated repertoire of pass rush moves. I love, like, he's just very creative about it. He's got a lot going on. When it comes to, I love his spin move. He's got a really nice ghost. He's pretty strong. He's not the world's most, like, explosive athlete who's just going to blow by people up the field.
So he's not Micah Parsons.
No, but I think he's, like, it's funny, he wears 56. Like, sometimes out there, he reminds me of Lamar Woodley, right? Like, it was that guy on the other side of James Harrison that was really good too. I think he can be that guy for TJ Watt. But it's just Robin, no Batman, right? Like, that's and that, I think one of the things that's been really impressive with him the last few weeks is watching him deal with an extremely heightened level of attention from the other team. What they're going into their meetings saying, oh, now we don't have to worry about 90. All right, what are we going to do to 56 this week? And he's been able to work through that. And I think that's really impressed me. He's not the greatest against the run. I think that's definitely the place where, for a guy his size, he could probably improve. But as far as pass rushing, man, I think he's just a really technical, talented guy that makes the most of his physical attributes, and in a way that I really like to watch. I think he's a fun player. If you really like to watch, like, I'm sure Ruben's not into this, but if you really like to, like, watch pass rush moves and guys that really take that craft to another level, I think he's one of those guys.
Oh, I love watching the skill, the art of it. And, these guys are 3-4 guys. The 3-4 defensive fronts pose a lot more difficulty for offenses than what people understand. So those guys can come from a lot of different angles. And that's what Justice and I were kind of saying, like, oh, who is this guy? We him, but he's really that good? I'm like, yeah, he's there. He's getting it done. He's using the different techniques that he has to get himself home, and it's not all Watt. It's him. It's his effort.
On the flip side, to counter that, though, Al, Greg Russo, 4 sacks already. He's already at his last year's total. What do you think about the season that he's having so far?
Man, I saw it in college. I thought it was a great pick by the front office there in Buffalo. I thought it was a great fit for what they're doing. And then it's the same thing. You put just a number of talented guys on that Buffalo defensive line. I think it makes them all better. When they kind of come at you in waves, they can come at you from different angles. Yeah, I mean, look, I talked about, I think the Steelers have to focus on what they do with Von Miller. That probably means they're not that focused on what they're doing with Greg Russo, and he's probably going to have some free shots at Kenny Pickett this week as a result of it. He's having a really good year too. I think those two guys they're not that, like, super similar as far as players, but just like the role and what they're being asked to do and how they're taking advantage of that opportunity is absolutely very similar. And I really like just the way Buffalo has built that defense in general, but I think it's really cool to see, like, Russo and Boogie and just the way that defensive line is built, that you don't really know. It's got to be really hard to game plan against, to me, because they can just do so many different things with the number of guys they have and the way they rotate. I think it's really fun.
Yeah, just to give you a quick brief injury report, we already know 5 players from the Bills aren't playing. Tremaine Edmonds is questionable with a hamstring, so that's something to be on the lookout for. Maybe this could be the game, no disrespect to the Steelers, that, the Bills may rest a few guys preparing for that Kansas City game. Let's not forget about Ed Oliver can suit up for the first time in about 3 games. Jordan Phillips, he may play, but another guy that they may save, for Kansas City again. So the Bills are showing you how much quality depth these guys have. Joe Gauss Harris, has been elevated from the practice squad, so maybe he'll get a little bit of action if Tremaine Edmonds isn't to go with that hamstring. So that's something definitely to be looking out for first thing in the morning. We'll see. We'll give you more exclusive reporting on that one. That's for sure.
All right. I mean, before we get out of here, I actually want to have ask you guys your opinions on this. Like the first quarter of the season, obviously, there's 16 games, 4 games is first quarter, but it's 17. But we're still going to call it first quarter anyway, right? Who is the first quarter player of the year so far? Right, as we go through it, right? Offense or defense doesn't matter. I just want to hear you guys' opinion. I'm gonna start with you, Alan. Who do you think is you could pick Steelers or Bills, whichever team you prefer. Who's the player of
for one of these two teams?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's got to be Josh Allen. I mean, he's the whole Buffalo offense. I mean, it doesn't work without him. None of it does. You know, there are some places and players where, you know, you look at the scheme and you look at the totality of the talent and the way they do things, or, you know, a unit or a package. Or the whole Buffalo offense is that Josh Allen is really, really good. That's it. I mean, I think that it needs, like Ruben has said, it needs to eventually be more than that if they really want to feel like a contender to win a Super Bowl. But it's doing all right right now. Also, like, it's not a bad place either. But just, hey, that guy's really good. Let's let him win some games. I think another thing is, like, he takes more hits than about any quarterback in the league. So it's not just about is your offense versatile enough to be a Super Bowl contender? When that guy is your whole offense, what happens if he's got to miss 3 games? I think that's an ugly place for Buffalo right now. So I think he's that guy because everything runs through him. But they should probably find some ways to minimize exactly how much everything runs through him for the bigger picture.
Ruben was absolutely saying that earlier. But real quick, because I am actually very interested, I want to know who your Steelers pick would have been.
I mean, it's TJ Watt, right? They had 7 sacks against the Cincinnati Bengals, and in 3 weeks since then, they have 4. I mean, that's he's their whole defense. Like,
did he get injured in week 1?
Allen is his whole offense. Like, he's unbelievable.
Yeah, week 1 he went nuts. He's a beast.
And they're just a different defense with him on the field, and they're still a good defense without him. But he's incredible. He's
their Josh Allen on defense.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, he got paid like it. That's for sure. Rube, who you got? Who's your MVP of the first quarter?
It's all Josh Allen. You know, I mean, coming into the season, everyone was speculating about the Bills, but I know the people that watch the Bills or talk about the Bills, they say it with a little grain of salt, or like, they're waiting to end. They're not really, are they? That's the sentiment I get. But Josh came out the door and like threw it open. Like, I'm in the saloon and line up the shots, motherfucker, because I'm ready to play. And he's doing it. So Josh, hands down, in all the NFL, really, especially that opening game against the Rams, to go and play the defending Super Bowl champions and go out there and beat them in their house while they raising the banners. That's it. We getting this thing started off right from the get-go. And then, you know, it's been Josh. And then I would say same thing over on with the Steelers on the opposite side. I just said it. Watt is the Allen of the Steelers, so to speak. You know, even though they still have a lot of great talent over there that can be effective against a lot of these other quarterbacks. But, you know, Watt is that type of guy you go up into a game with. And if you had a Josh Allen over there, you feel a little bit better because it's like, oh, yeah, we got Watt, can at least go get some pressure on him. But without Watt, you know, now it starts to look a little bit more daunting than with
me.
Yeah. For sure. What about you? Yeah, what about you, Mookie?
Well, I mean, since y'all both took Josh Allen, I mean, I got to go with Stephon Diggs. I mean, when you look at it, right now, he's in top three in every statistical category you can have as far as a receiver standpoint. I wonder how many clutch catches he has, because I've seen him with a lot of clutch catches in 4 games. When it's on the line, you see Stephon Diggs making plays out there. I'm not sure if he has 4 touchdowns right now. I don't know if that's anybody has more receiving touchdowns than Stephon Diggs right now. So I mean, from every great quarterback, there's a great receiver, and it goes hand in hand. So you can easily say Stephon Diggs is playing some of his best ball in his career right now. And hey, Josh is Josh, right? We know he's going to make plays, but it's the guys that he's throwing the ball to obviously has to make those plays to make Josh Allen right too. So I'm gonna say Stephon Diggs MVP right now. On the flip side, for Pittsburgh, I'm gonna say Mika Fitzpatrick leading the league in interceptions. I mean, he's Ed Reed right now. I mean, he's that type. Team scheme for him. I understand where that guy is.
And we lost Allen.
So he's definitely a force that teams have to game plan for. So on the flip side, I'm gonna say Mika Fitzpatrick.
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna flip the tables a little bit. I'm gonna say for my MVP it's gonna be a little bit of a tandem, right? You look at the first 4 games, the Bills have allowed 58 points total for a grand total of 14.5 points a game. Even when the offense hasn't been there, the defense has been there, and I'm gonna give it to the linebackers. I'm going to say Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano. I'll give it a little bit of a duo MVP, if you will, just because I think that they deserve some recognition. And I think they play absolutely outstanding. They play like 2 All-Pros up to this point so far this season. So I'm going to say them.
All right.
Was that Mook? You said something?
No. That's Mookie's all frozen and everything.
Yeah, but
all right, Alan, we're gonna have to get on again, man, and we'll chop it up.
That sounds great, man. Do it again.
Great talking to
you. Did you guys want to get into the kneel down?
Yeah, well, Mookie ain't gonna be able to do it. His phone janky right now. And look, okay. Now you sideways.
Is he back?
Yeah.
We'll see if maybe his picks up, but we could get into it a little bit. I mean, we got time. We'll do the rundown real quick.
Oh, all right. Well, let's jump into it. This is how we usually end this off, Alan. Thanks for sticking around with us. And we're going to do my little rundown. And my rundown is always about running. That's why I call it rundown, because and I alluded to it earlier. This is a trap game for the Buffalo Bills because they can't just come out and do what they've done in the past, something just roll the helmet out and think they're going to win the game. They're going to have to put forth some effort. And the secret to that this week is actually getting someone to run the ball other than Josh Allen and effectively for positive yards. And positive yards, I mean, it could be 0 yards net, just as long as it's not going negative. Just hand the ball off to someone else that's physically running that ball to give Josh a break, and also to make the defense play honest. Let someone else run. Make them respect another player running the ball, opposed to Josh is carrying it all the time. So, my rundown is offensive coordinator, find a way to establish a running game. And everyone has told everyone, all the coaches know this saying. It's December. In the late part of the year, you're going to need to be running that ball. But you start now practicing and establishing it. So That's my rundown.
Well, real quick. I mean, because we had this problem with Dayball too. That's what's like really confusing me. Like Dayball didn't run, and now Dorsey come in. We're like, oh, we're gonna have a comprehensive run game, and he just doesn't run either. Is it like
I mean, and then Dayball, look what he's doing with the Giants. Saquon running everywhere.
See what
Exactly.
he's doing where his bread is butter. He know he got to give it to Saquon.
Is it like if you have the answers to the test, aka Josh Allen, do you just stop studying and you just like, I already know, I'm just gonna write down what I remember from like what's going on? I don't understand this. Like what's happening?
They are leaning to listen. You got to win where you can and have you can. And yes, if I'm a coach and if our only way I could win was run Josh Allen, yes, I will. But Allen brought up a point. Josh is the quarterback. He throws the ball and he runs it. He runs the ball one time and get up and can't throw anymore. Oh, everything falls apart. The passing game's gone and the running game that you never had is not there. Yep. So I say you got to start establishing some run life to help Josh be Josh and the team. The team needs it. The team needs it. So.
Absolutely, for sure. And I mean, obviously, I don't have a graphic ready for you, Alan, but I do have something. I got you next time, I promise. But I do have something ready for you. So just get your thoughts together for what you might want to talk about. All right, because this play is absolutely ridiculous, and this definitely caught my eye. This is a special young guy.
And in 3, Trubisky on the move down the sideline and reaching up for it is George Pickens, and he holds it in.
George Pickens, this is a guy that's known when he was in college at Georgia. Vertical, stretch the defense, make plays, rookie on rookie, and what a catch with the right hand.
That's crazy. Crazy. All right, Alan, what you got for us, man?
Well, I'll talk about George real quick. So we asked him after that game, is that like your best catch ever? And he's like, no, maybe that's like 6 or 7. That's what he said.
God.
That's what he said. He's like, that was it's top 10. You know, that's all. It's funny too because that Steelers wide receiver core has George, who is never not open because you just throw it to him anyway, and Deontay Johnson that is literally always open because that man is uncoverable. He's got the opposite problem though. He don't catch them all, but he's open on every single play. I think like just nobody covers him. He's uncoverable. They're fun, man. If they can get that short rhythm passing game going, I think they can do some things on offense that we haven't seen from them to this point. I think Pickett and Pickens have a really special connection. George was 100 yards last game. I think he should be right there again. But I'll talk about where Ruben was and this Josh Allen running the ball. So I did some research about this week. Of all the teams that Josh Allen has played 3 or more times, the Steelers, he has the second worst rushing yards per attempt against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of every team that Lamar Jackson has played 3 or more times, he has the dead last rushing yards per attempt against Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers will not get beat by a running quarterback. Okay, they can be beaten by a running back. They were last in the NFL 5 yards per carry last year. But that was running backs doing that damage, not running quarterbacks.
You dropped the bomb on us here today, didn't you?
If the Bills want to establish the running game with a running back and not with Josh Allen, this is the week to do it because they can stop running quarterbacks, but they cannot stop the run.
You can't stop the run.
Miles Jack, Devin Bush. They got some fast linebackers. It doesn't surprise me that they're able to get the quarterbacks on the ground before they can do too much damage, especially guys with the elite run skill set of a Lamar Jackson, of a Josh Allen, etc. So yeah, hey, thank you for that. That was a great tidbit that I'm definitely going to be looking out for tomorrow to see if Josh tries to run too much. But for me, it was just find this to be the final segment of the day. A general rule for me. I'm going to go ahead and say I wouldn't say I'm scared, but I will say although we dominated the game in Miami, statistically we didn't score enough points. Miami kind of did something that I could see the Pittsburgh Steelers doing in terms of having a quick passing attack, quick throw, and then, attack the inexperienced safeties when it matters most, and, have a George Pickens go up and get a tough grab, or have a Chase Claypool make a huge play, or have a Deontay Johnson makes the most ridiculous catches I've ever seen. Like, he just is crazy. So, I mean, they have the talent for something like that to potentially happen. So I think it's important for the Bills to make sure that they don't allow the Steelers to stick around, because they have the talent to be able to make a play that you were not expecting to happen. So, and then they also have the defense to be able to contain you, to be able to, cause some fits in the Bills offense, especially, what we've seen from Miami. The blitz seemed to really bother them, which it doesn't typically bother them, but it was bothering them that day. And then, of course, Baltimore absolutely gave them fits in the first half. So I would like to see the Bills offense come out and be that offense we saw versus Tennessee, that offense we saw versus LA. So, that's what we need. We need a, kind of get on track game, especially before we have to go see those guys over there in Arrowhead. So yeah, man, we'll see what happens tomorrow. 1 p.m. the Buffalo Bills play the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is going to be a good one. A rematch from last year. The Pittsburgh, they got one on us. And so yeah, it's going to be a great game. But we want to thank you so much, Alan, for joining us, bro. It has been an absolute pleasure to meet you and talk to you.
Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for having me, guys. I think this is the third time, 3 years in a row I've been on with Mookie, and it's great. It's good to meet you guys too. It's been awesome.
Let everybody know where they can follow you and check out some of your work.
Yeah, at Twitter at @asaunders_PGH, and on my Steelers coverage is at SteelersNow.com at PGH Steelers Now. I'll be there tomorrow and basically all the Steelers games all season, and still check out Pitt from time to time too. So a big win for the Panthers this Saturday, and
yeah, record-breaking day for our running back.
for Izzy, and got some Buffalo guys on the Pitt squad now too. We're looking forward to seeing those guys, freshmen, so they're getting their feet wet, but we're looking forward to it.
Will you be at the game tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be at the game tomorrow. Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, hopefully I'll see you there.
Alan, I wish I would have known you could be at the game. I tell you to bring me up a permane sandwich.
I would. I don't think they travel real well.
Not well.
You get the coleslaw overnight.
Up off the turnpike, a little closer to the PA New York border. That's a good spot to stop. Yeah.
Are you going to be at the game tomorrow?
Together when we're down that way.
You going to be at the game tomorrow, Root?
No, I won't be at the. No.
Oh, man.
I'm watching it on the good old intranet.
All right, no problem. Cool. Well, hey,
pleasure, Alan. We'll wrap some more, man.
Sounds good
for sure. Hopefully, we get to chop it up soon. But thank you guys for tuning in. For my man, the legendary Ruben Brown, for the legendary Mookie Hawkins, and the legendary Alan Saunders, I'm Justice General Radford. This has been Believe in Bills, and we will see you guys later. Go Bills.
Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports contests and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Now, find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. Bet Online continues to be the top online resource for all sports information, from live in-game betting props and futures. Head to Bet Online today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Now, use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your 50%. Welcome your bonus on your first deposit. Now, Bet Online is where the game starts.